So I was thinking that being a liberal, I should probably add my observations to what you've said, because I think there's a mischaracterization going on there. I don't see liberals as being value neutral. I'm certainly not value neutral. I think we simply just value different things to different extents. I think there are some fundamental differences. I think that liberals understand to a very large extent that the only people we really have control over is ourselves, ultimately. That there are various forms of power and manipulation and everything else, but that ultimately all that's going to fall flat. We don't believe in, advertising or coercion, subliminal advertising, any of that stuff, propaganda. We think it all ultimately fails. All right, we're concerned about it because it can certainly mislead people for a long period of time. That's what we saw with Iraq. But eventually people come around. People are smarter than that. People cannot be continually led. Or let's say most people can. Some people are so ingrained in their delusions that there's no breaking away from them. All right, but they're a minority, okay? A distinctive type of personality. But I think liberals, because we can only really control ourselves, liberals are sort of quicker to take responsibility for things that emerge, things that develop, and take responsibility, because if we don't do something about it, no one else will. That's kind of our belief that, that the only way to get things done, to change, if you want change, the first thing you must change is yourself. And that's a very, very fundamental belief of liberals, that we don't cheerlead when we make mistakes. We want to identify mistakes. We want to correct mistakes. We want to acknowledge what we do well, too, obviously. But we're not, cheerleading my country right or wrong, because we believe it is our responsibility in order to bring about global change to first change ourselves. All right, that's what liberals believe. We don't blame America first necessarily. Certainly, there's always two sides to the story. There's always enough blame to go around, and with some of our dealings, obviously, there's a lot more blame on the other side. But we just believe that it's useless to just point the finger and blame at someone and say, "You've got to change." We wonder what it is we have to change, because we're the only ones who can bring about effective change. We need to change, all right? The other side doesn't have to. They don't have to do a thing, all right? So in terms of being self-defeating, I really don't think so. I think liberals value diversity, especially diversity of opinion, to a very large degree. In science, there's consensus, and there's, the whole scientific process for bringing evidence and everything else. But we realize that, people have subjective experiences, and they've only got their own experience to base their theories and conclusions on. And we know that people are going to disagree about stuff, and people need time. They can't be coerced into seeing the truth or seeing the big picture with the limited amount of experience they have, So we understand that people are going to have different opinions, and we value people's input, mostly their observations. Being pragmatic means valuing people's observations even when you don't agree with their conclusions, all right? So we value diversity to a very large extent, much more so than conservatives. Conservatives tend to believe that they all have to assert the same things, talking points. And the Republicans in Congress are a very good example of this. They're always in lockstep. They follow leadership. They're very hierarchical. They don't network. They don't argue. They just follow the leader. And we see that as potentially being harmful. It's very organized and it's very powerful, but we see that as something that can go wrong very easily, that kind of power and organization, when it's being led by only a small number of individuals, that lack of chaos can create very big systemic problems. When you've got everyone doing the same thing at the same time, it can create big problems. We like diversity. We like diversity of opinion and freedom of speech. But I would not call it self-defeating. Granted, our approach is more long-term. I think that the conservative approach may have some benefits short-term. Being organized certainly has benefits short-term. Propaganda and misleading people and all that other stuff may work short-term, but we believe that people are smart enough that they're going to eventually figure things out on their own. And that's what we aim for. We want that kind of stability. And the Republicans had their day in the sun, and they screw things up. But it's the Democrats. And sometimes I think the Democrats are too forgiving. In all honesty. But anyways, I probably said enough for this video. So that's all. And talk to you later. Bye.